Well, Dene Olding, it's lovely to have you with us at 3MBS. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Doug. It's August in the tropics, and we're here every August, it seems, so it's part of our permanent calendar.
It's very different to Melbourne, where you were born.
I was born in Melbourne. I'm an Olympic baby. I was born during the Olympics. Yes.
Wow.
As my mother would remember very well.
Yes.
But yes, my parents got married in Vienna. They were both Australian students studying overseas, and then they came back for my arrival into Australia.
Dean, the obvious question that you've been asked many times, the reason for your longevity as a quartet, 27 years, the same performers, that would be unusual in the quartet world, wouldn't it?
I think it is. Marriage helps.
Well, yes, because you began as a quartet before you partnered as couples. And I might add, for the listener who isn't aware, that you're married to Irena Morozova, who's the violist, and Julian Smiles, the cellist, and Dimity Hall, violinist, are also married. So we have two married couples in a quartet.
Well, we had been married,
Right.
Irena and I. Julian and Dimity got married a few years after, but we had worked together for some years as part of the Australia Ensemble, and as part of that repertoire we had often ventured into string quartets, and of course the repertoire is so rich and rewarding that we thought, gee, we'd like to do this a little bit more, but it's a rather daunting step because the repertoire is, I think, for a string player the most difficult to play. I think violin recitals are terribly difficult. Of course, concertos have their own challenges, but you are surrounded by a huge orchestra sound, whereas in a string quartet, everybody's on display all the time, and the aspects of intonation and style and so on are ever more crucial. You just have to polish and polish and polish, and it's very labor intensive.
Is it hard for two couples to change from two couples to being one quartet in performance and in rehearsal?
Not really. Well, we know no other, so I suppose it's... I think it has tempered some of our approach to rehearsals. You can't curse and swear at your colleague because you know you have to go home with them at the end of the day. So I think we're mostly mild-mannered into our relationships with each other, so we haven't had too many squabbles over the years.
After 27 years, how do you approach a work fresh? The Beethoven quartets are quartets that you've performed a number of times and recorded very beautifully. I wonder how different your performances are now compared with when you were younger.
Well, I hate to listen to myself play on recordings. I rarely listen to myself unless it happens to be playing on the radio. And I'm sure if we did, for example, the Beethoven cycle again, we would probably do things differently. Some things better, maybe other things not so well. But I think that's just part of a normal process of any musician. You have some of these famous artists who will do something like that early in their career. For example, all the Beethoven piano sonatas, and then they would record it multiple times over the course of their career. And things inevitably change. I think we are better now in many ways than we ever were, because we know the pitfalls and the shortcuts and well, not tricks, that's too cheap a word,
yes.
But just the shortcuts is a better word to get to a good performance, and what works and what doesn't work. You might have persevered with a certain fingering for years, but the success rate is not so great, or you have a fingering which works well on your own, but it doesn't blend so well, on the wrong string with the other members of the quartet. So quartet is very, very frustrating, but very rewarding.
At the Townsville Chamber Music Festival, which we're thoroughly enjoying, you're doing a variety of works, and some of them are works that I think you'd be very familiar with. Other works, wouldn't be so familiar with. Is there a special joy in performing in a festival like this, where you might be playing a little bit outside the usual square?
Oh, definitely. I don't think we're a quartet that likes to play the same repertoire ad nauseum. Some quartets have been known to prepare a couple of pieces per year, and that's only what they do. And there's a lot to be said for that, because you fine-tune and fine-tune with each performance, and that's very comforting. But we like to, or we've had to, I suppose, out of necessity, just learn lots and lots of repertoire. And I think as I look back over 20-something years at this festival, it's been marvellous, the number of artists that we've met and the repertoire that we wouldn't normally play. I suppose one of the highlights of this festival for us was the so-called Goldner variations, where we had 25 different Australian composers supplying a Beethoven variation each, a very short 30-second, 1-minute variation. And that was really exciting. So you can't get much more diverse than that. I think 25 different composers in 25 minutes would be able to play it.
Well, Dean, I have to say it's a great pleasure to talk to you today. I'm sorry we've got limited time, because it'd be lovely to delve into some of these aspects of your performing more deeply. But I wish you well with the beautiful Corngold Piano Quintet tonight. And clearly it's been a wonderful festival this year. Jack Liebeck has obviously done a wonderful job for his first festival.
It's a very diverse program and really interesting themes to each concert.
Well, thanks very much for talking with us, and we look forward to lots more Melbourne listeners coming up to Townsville next year.
Thank you very much, Doug, and hello to all your Melbourne listeners.